Do not ignore your debt thinking your debt is going to go away. No, child, your debt has moved in. When you're sleeping in bed, your debt is sleeping right beside you. When you're in that shower singing, your debt is singing too. Your debt has a good voice. Mimi says if you can't afford designer items, go buy a dupe. I don't care. Fake it till you make it. Get your sugar daddy. Do what you gotta do, because I feel like if a man is willing to pay for it, why should you Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. I am Mimi, and today we're going to be talking money. Money. You know, that good old thing that makes this world go round. That thing that you just can't live without no matter what nobody tries to tell you. How you gonna buy Gucci bags with no money? I'm joking, kinda. But we're going to be talking money. I'm going to be sharing some of my top tips with you guys about money management. I'm actually in the most comfortable financial position I think I've ever been in my life, or definitely ever been in my life. So I want to kind of talk to you guys about my journey and how I got there, and hopefully some of the stuff is helpful to you guys. So bring a pen and paper, let's talk money, take down some notes, share your tips and suggestions in the comment section, and make sure you are subscribed. We are looking good, we are feeling good. And on that note, I need to talk about my sponsor with you guys. So Wiggins Hair, they sent me this wig. It's a wig. I didn't have to make it. It came already as is. It is 22 or 24 inches. I'm not entirely sure, but I did cut kind of like some layers into the hair just to give it a little bit more flavor. It's straight Brazilian hair. Absolutely fabulous. I've been wearing it for a month now and I just love it. I don't even stick it down, like that's it. I've not stuck this wig down once. It just looks so good the way it came. I'm gonna link it in the description box. Make sure you guys feel free to check it out. The one thing I will say is it's not as full as a lot of hair I normally have. It's still alright, like fullness wise, but I do quite like fuller hair, so I could possibly add like a few wefts in here to make it a bit fuller, but I will also say that the way it is actually makes it look a lot more natural as well. So it's kind of like a natural thickness if I'd grown this out of my own scalp, which I didn't, but you know, no judgments. Okay. So you guys can check out Wiggins Hair, and you guys can check out this specific wig. It's bomb in my description box, and I've got some money off for you guys as well, so check that out too. But let's talk money, okay? So I wrote some notes down in my little YouTube notepad because I didn't want to forget anything. But let's just talk like historically. I've always been notoriously bad with money. Like I didn't even know what saving was or a savings account. I was knee deep in my, like I was in my eyeballs up in debt, like so badly. I would never pay my bills on time. I would always have debt collectors calling and chasing me. Like I was just bad with money, and I really feel like schools and education boards should really think about having money management classes in high school when you're growing up, because that is something that can really prepare you for the real world. Like why are they not teaching us how to be money savvy? I don't know, but I got you guys today. So let's talk, first of all, let's talk about your salary, because I hope everybody's got a salary. So let's just start there in what you're bringing in monthly or annually. So your salary, that's not the easiest thing to change. It's generally what it is. What I will say is, if you're in a corporate job, or in fact just any job, you don't have to accept the first offer they give you. And I think women are notoriously bad for doing this. We just tend generally to just take what we're given. Men always tend to negotiate, and in my last corporate job I learned, actually, because I just accepted what they gave me, I was super happy with it, and I was quite lucky that they called me back because they really wanted me, and they're like, no, we're going to give you this much more than what we actually offered you in the first place. And I was kind of like shook and surprised, and that just let me know that actually I could probably have gotten a lot more money out of these people if I had known my worth. So do your research, find out how much people in your job role are getting, and negotiate. Don't accept the first offer on the table, because 9 out of 10 times they're not expecting you to accept that offer. That's generally just a starting point. If you want to know what other people in your bracket, in your job role, are earning, Glassdoor, I always say, is a great place to start. So have a look on Glassdoor. Okay, so on the note of salary as well, there's like annual salary reviews, annual pay reviews. If they don't have an annual salary review, you need to demand one. There's no such, oh, we have our pay reviews every 18 months or every, 24 months. No. Every year that I work for this company, you need to sit me down, because every year, trust me, they're giving you a performance review where they're going to tell you how you're doing, what you need to improve. Okay, so after my performance review, I'm going to need you to sit me down and have a salary review with me as well. So if I'm exceeding your expectations, if I'm meeting your targets, if I'm performing well in my job role, I'm going to need you to show me that in my pay packet. And best believe that every year, especially when they're taking in graduates and whatnot, every year the base salary goes up. It's just the way the world is. When you go and buy Snickers today, next year, this time next year, the Snickers bar is going to cost more. It's the way the world works. Everything you're purchasing now costs more than it did last year. So your salary needs to match that. Every single year they need to be paying you more. And if they're trying to joke about with your money, tell them have several seats. Bring out your folder. Show them what you're worth. Show them what you have contributed to their company. Let them know that if they lose you, they're going to regret it. And be prepared to walk away from a bad deal. Some people get so comfortable where they are that they miss out on so many other opportunities out there. Me, never had that problem. The quickest way to move up is to move sideways. Facts. There's a lot of benefits that you can get from staying in a company for like 20, 30 plus years. This is a fact. There are lots of good benefits, but the quickest way to get a salary increase is moving sideways. My cousin just moved jobs. I think it was earlier last year. He got a 10 grand salary increase, doing the exact same job, but just moving to a different company that paid more and negotiating better with everything that he learns. If a company's already got you for a certain price, they're going to want to keep you at that price, whereas another company who's looking for top talent, they're going to do whatever they can to attract that top talent, so that's the first one, salary. Then let's talk debt and debt management. Do not ignore your debt thinking your debt is going to go away. No, child, your debt has moved in. When you're sleeping in bed, your debt is sleeping right beside you. When you're in that shower singing, your debt is singing too. Your debt has a good voice, Your debt is eating, sleeping and sexing with you. It's not going anywhere, homie. I hope you guys get me. Do not ignore your debt thinking it's going to go away, because I used to do that. When the debt collectors were calling, just straight to block, no. Pick up that phone call and explain your situation. I'm not in a position to make payments of that debt right now, but what I would like to do is set up a monthly debit from my account, so I will pay off this debt slowly but surely. I can afford this much for the next 3 months. In 3 months time, I'm expecting my financial situation to be this much better. We can increase that amount to this, and then in the next year or two this debt will hopefully be cleared. Have a plan, have a strategy. Ignoring it is not a plan, it's not a strategy. And make sure you're able to put aside that money. Prioritize your debts. Prioritize your debts before you go out drinking, partying, dancing. I'm saying this from experience. I'm not judging anybody, because I used to do this. I'd go out, I'd be eating all the kebabs in the world, drinking all the vodka, dancing on tables. Meanwhile, my phone bill were calling me. Have a strategy in place. Put a payment plan, that's what they call it. Put a payment plan in place to pay off your debts. And if you can, set extra money aside as well, and every month, if it's possible, allocate more money to paying that debt off, because the sooner you pay it off, the less of the debt you end up having to pay, because most of the time they're adding interest on top of that as well. Okay, let's talk investing. So there's lots of things that you can invest in: bonds, shares, property. So I actually invested in shares in Procter & Gamble when I used to work for them, and I got very, very lucky that right before I left that company, they sold our division to another company, and I basically got double the amount in the shares that I put in. So I think I had about £1,000 worth of shares, because they've been taking it every month from my salary. If your company has that kind of option where you can buy shares in the company from your salary, they usually give it to you at a much more discounted rate as an employee than if you were purchasing it as a normal consumer. If you can do that, do it, because I did that. After 2 years, I had about £1,000 worth of shares, and because they sold our division off, before I left. They doubled that when I cashed my shares out. That was a nice chunk of change that I got that I wasn't even expecting. I think it was even more than double actually. So shares are always a good investment, but there are better investments out there because shares tend to take longer to mature, tend to take longer before you see a return on your investment. The second investment that I've done is the purchase of my property. When I was 25, I bought a 2-bedroom flat. Now I was, what I would say, really smart and savvy about the way I purchased the property. I didn't have any kids, I didn't have any boyfriend, no dependence on me, so I kind of knew I was going to buy a 2-bedroom property, but I didn't want an open plan like where the kitchen and the living room are joined together. I wanted a separate one because it was always my plan from the get-go to convert the living room into a 3rd bedroom for myself and then rent out the other 2 rooms. And by doing that, my property paid for itself for years. The mortgage, I've never really paid the mortgage at this property, and on top of it paying for itself, when I moved to Barcelona, it paid for itself, and it paid for my property in Barcelona because then I was able to rent out the 3rd room here as well. So I would say from having this property, I've made well over, I'd say, £35,000 in rent in 3.5 years. That is not bad at all, £35,000. So if you're in a position to do that, I would say that is a great investment if you have a bit of extra space, but realize that it is a sacrifice, and for a lot of good things in life you have to be willing to sacrifice. Like earlier on this year, I asked one of my tenants to move out. I've now only got 1 tenant and I have the extra room as a studio, but I would not have been in the position to do that if I hadn't been willing to sacrifice for the last 3 years and share my space with strangers. So you know, you don't just get to where you want to be, you know, one day. You have to take the steps to get there. I was definitely not in the situation I'm in now 3 years ago. And even on that note, like, I would also say, live within your means, and we're all guilty of this. We live in a generation where social media shows us people with designer bags, designer cars, designer everything. Everybody's living this perfect life and putting it out for the world to see, but 9 out of 10 times it's fake. Don't get caught out there trying to live a life that you know you can't afford. I read about a girl earlier last year that spent over £10,000, got into £10,000 worth of debt trying to live an Instagram life because she wanted to create a following. She spent £10,000 on traveling, on buying new clothes, on cameras. I'm like, girl, really? It's not that deep. Mimi says if you can't afford designer items, go buy a dupe. I don't care. Fake it till you make it. If you really feel that way, that like you just feel like you have to post Gucci and Chanel, buy the fakes, honey, because a lot of these like Instagram celebrities, they're buying fakes as well. You think everybody can afford Gucci and Louis? I only own 1 Louis Vuitton bag and that cost me $3,000. They have not seen my money since then because I can't afford it. Okay, I can't afford Louis. When we can afford it, we purchase it, but until then, don't get caught out trying to live a lifestyle you can't afford. I just bought a new car. I didn't do a whole video about it because it's not a BMW, it's not an Audi, it's not a level that you know that's Instagrammable, but it's an improvement, a massive improvement on the car I was driving last year, you know, and it's good, it's comfortable. Next year hopefully I can buy a nicer car, and that's how it should be, a gradual improvement of your circumstances, you know. Be willing and ready to sacrifice. Money doesn't just come overnight, not if you're doing it the honest way, okay? And on the dishonest way, it's not really dishonest, but if you've got a sugar daddy, it's okay. Mimi says yes. Get you a sugar daddy, do what you gotta do, because I feel like if a man is willing to pay for it, why should you not accept? Okay? I personally never had one, but I'm not judging anybody that wants to do that, girl. You do you. Just be honest about it, okay? Don't be out here posting Gucci and Chanel acting like you work hard. I suppose you do work hard, but you know what I mean, okay? Let's just be honest, okay? And then alternatives to investment. Let's say not everybody's in a position to buy a property. I've done a video already about how I saved for my property, so I'm going to link that in my description box because I'm not going to talk about that in this video. But if you're not in a position to buy a property but you want to invest in something, you want to save more, perhaps look at renting out a larger property. So if you rent out a 3 or 4 bedroom property and you put it in your name, you pay the deposit, it's quite a good chunk of an initial investment, and it's in your name. You then have a leeway to sublet, as they call it, sublet the empty 2 rooms to people that you find yourself. Now be careful, make sure there's nothing shady in the contract that you sign that would make that illegal. Just make sure you're protected. But I know a lot of people that have done this, and if I hadn't bought my property, this is something that I would have done as well. Sublet the other 2 rooms and charge at a higher rate, to the point where they're basically paying for you to live in that property for free. That's such a great thing to do. You don't have to own the property to do that. You will need a good few thousand if you're going to pay, you know, your deposit, the upfront rent, you know. And make sure you get trustworthy people that are actually going to pay, because you're the one that's going to be liable. But that's also a nice good way, because if you're living rent free, you're setting yourself aside with a lot of disposable income, a lot of free income that you can put towards saving for a property or saving for another investment. And that's another thing. Open a savings account. Doesn't matter how strong-willed you are, if the money is there, the temptation to touch it will always be so real. So open a savings account, and every money dedicate a certain amount that you're going to put in that account, whether it's £20, whether it's £50, whether it's £100, 500, whatever you can afford. Getting into the good habit of saving will get you so far. I opened my first saving account when I bought my property. That was when I was like, no, my bad money management has to go. I need to be able to save properly. And I didn't really start saving, I would say, until earlier last year, because I always felt like I'm not in a good position. I don't have enough disposable income to save. That's a lie. Even if it was £20, I should have been doing it, because it's a good habit to learn, a good habit to get into. And having that bit of additional income set aside, or savings set aside, will always kind of just give you a bit of security, a bit of breathing room. You never have to worry too much, because if your car breaks down this month, or if, you know, you get some tax bill you weren't expecting, you're good, you're covered. You're good to go. Okay, so make sure you have savings. Now, another important thing I'm going to ask all of you now: do you know how much your monthly outgoing bills are? Your fixed bills, your phone, your TV, your internet, your rent, your mortgage, whatever you're paying, your council tax, your water, electricity. Do you know how much that is every month? If you don't, you're not good with money. Facts. You can't come here and tell me you're good with money and you don't know how much your monthly bills cost you. I know how much mine costs me. I know how much I earn a month. I know how much my bills cost a month. I have a spreadsheet. You know, there are lots of apps you can download on your phone if you don't want to do the whole spreadsheet behavior. But I'm so regimented now about what's coming in, what's going out, what I'm putting aside to savings. And you need to be that way if you're going to manage your money properly and save enough to invest. So I spoke a few months ago as well that I remortgaged this place, so that again was another investment that has just worked out so well for me. I remortgaged my property and I took quite a big chunk out of it, the equity out of it. I did a video on that as well, so I won't go into it, but feel free to check it out. But that just meant that in my bank account, in my savings account, I had several tens of thousands that was just sitting there and I didn't know what I was going to do with it. At the time, I was thinking of purchasing a place in Spain, and then that kind of fell through. I decided I didn't want to move back to Spain. So what I'm now doing with that money, I first of all, I had almost £10,000 worth of debt. I have a lot of debt on credit cards, overdrafts, so much debt. I cleared all of that off first of all, 10 grand gone. Then I've been slowly spending it, no matter how well I say no every month, just keeping that money there. I'm like, oh, I'll go to Italy, I'll go here. No, that money has been slowly going down to the point now I'm like, no, we need to reinvest it in something so we're not just picking at it. So at the moment I'm having my property renovated. I'm putting all that money back into the property I already have, and my goal is to add at least £40,000 worth of value minimum, you know, to the property. So if I decide to sell it, you know, later on this year, that's an increased amount value that I'm going to sell it for. So I'm putting that equity back, getting up to the standard that I really want it to be at to make a sale just like that. Okay, so guys, I feel like I've shared some of the most important hints and tips I have. If you have any good ones, drop them below. The most important thing I want to leave you guys with is really just, because of the generation we live in, do not feel bad because people or social media is showing you a life that you can't afford. Do not feel bad that you don't own a car and you get the train, or you're walking to school every day because you're saving to put towards your masters. You're paying your way through school. That is far more important than buying a car. Cars are depreciating assets. If you know what an appreciating asset is and a depreciating asset, a car will lose 75% of its value. Is that 75%? No, a car will lose 25% of its value after the first year. So if you buy a car for £20,000, next year you can only sell it for 16,000. Yeah. Whereas if you put that £20,000 towards a deposit for a home property and you buy a £200,000 property, you put money into your property, you do some renovations yourself, you can probably sell that easy for £225,000 the year after. Appreciating, the value is going to increase. Depreciating, you're going to lose value. So make sure you're investing in assets that appreciate over time. No point in putting your money to buy yourself a brand new Audi so you can stunt on the gram. Meanwhile, you're eating baked beans at home. Does that make sense? Does that make sense? Okay, don't let social media, don't let society trick you into thinking you're not living your best life, you're not living a fulfilled life. You know, being financially stable, not having to worry about the debt collectors, being financially smart is living your best life. That's all I gotta say. I'm Amy with Justin Me. If you've enjoyed this video, if it's been useful, please subscribe. It means so much to me. I'm really trying to grow and get to 20,000 ASAP Rocky. And don't forget that you guys can check out Wiggins Hair as well in the description box. And let me know if that was a little cute. You know. I'm Amy just Me.
I remember then when we done it also for the streets. Knowing one day you go pay. And I will start having the belief. Me I get paid you.